So welcome to episode 3 to bring you up to date what's happening at the London Bus Museum during December. So we're going to take off for our ride across the museum today, and I'm Leon Daniels. I'm the chairman of the London Bus Museum, and it's my great pleasure to bring you up to date on everything we've been doing. So as you can see, we've got all the vehicles now parked at the south end of the museum. We've already cleaned the floor at this end, so this job now has been to move the vehicles from one end to the other so as we can clean the floor at the other end. That cleaning of the floor is just something we can only do while we have all the vehicles moved out of the way. That little staircase, by the way, Derek Hanlon made that, so as visitors can see inside the canteen trailer. That will be back in action, of course, in the new display. But as we come across RML 2760 and RTL 139, we're looking into the new entrance to the museum. So when people come in through the front doors, they'll be greeted face on with RM 140, the smiling face of a traditional London bus, and then you'll do the opposite of what you did before. You'll turn left. And you can see now the horse bus and S454 broadly in their finished positions, and that's the way you'll enter the museum. You'll come in through that gap and open out into the new timeline. We've got RT3491 parked near the shutters at the other end. That's just because when we're open we use it for bus rides, so it just has to have a speedy exit. But we're looking across to the refashioned war hall, which is already in its new position, and the superstructure's in place. STL 2093 not quite in its final location yet, but we'll get the drapes up. It'll be darker and be even more mysterious than it was before. And if you don't fancy the Warhol, you can walk past G351. So we're moving the vehicles now from one end of the museum to the other. RML 2760 on long-term loan from Stagecoach London. We didn't put the Routemaster transfer there, so we'll have to fix that later. But for now, we'll just get it out of the way. And then Ian Reddick, who has been in charge of the manual physical labour for the whole refresh, getting now the tower out of the way, so for our next job, which is to manhandle the horse bus out of the way. It's easier to work with the vehicles that move under their own power, so we have G351 here ready to go. Of all the vehicles, it's not the easiest one to manoeuvre, but we're already getting it out of its temporary space, and we're going to get it over to the other side into roughly the position it will be in the final exhibition. So a bit of a bird's eye view over the work in progress. The guy now in proper place. Anyway, it was getting on, so we thought we'd better hurry up a bit. So T31 moved out the way, the S in its place, the ST moved, RT1 across, get RTL 139 out, lots of smoke coming from the RLH. Move the horse bus out of the way, get the RTL parked, canteen trailer outside, and so So we got our vehicles into the rightful place so as we could have our annual, but this year socially distanced and under a slightly more difficult situation, our annual works lunch. And then we tidied up the workshop, got the horse bus in. That's going to be the next restoration project when we're ready in the new year. So the workshop all remodelled. And finally clearing off all the vehicles that were parked outside. They're coming inside, not into their final positions, but just so as we can have them inside across the Christmas holidays. Finally got the Metrobus started, and clouds of smoke just to announce its arrival. So there's M6 making its way back into the museum, and now she'll be followed by SMS. So that's got the finishing straight and all the vehicles that were outside at Brooklands now inside for the Christmas holidays. So there was the way, of course, of putting them back in. Here's the CR coming in. Ian read it in a panic. He thinks that we're going to drive all over the mud and make his nice clean museum floor dirty again. But we managed to stay out of that, following of course by the cube.
This is when it's been used to see a building inside.
So we've got the CR inside. It's so small we could just squeeze it in next to the RTL. So I'm actually acting as banksman and photographer at this point. I think you can do both together. So we squeeze the CR back into its spot just for now. It will later join the country bus layout at the new refreshed museum. The ST just didn't want to start. Despite all our best efforts, eventually, with enough pairs of hands and enough battery power, we got it to go. And then there's the RT chassis. So the RT chassis is going to be hung off the wall in the new display. That's because it really is very popular, but we needed to save the floor space. So we're going to take it into the museum and park it roughly where she will be hoisted into position so people can see her. So we hope to back her all under her own power into the museum, but she, like a lot of vehicles that you don't use very often, has difficulty in keeping her air up. So if you can't keep the air up, the only thing to do is to push it with the fork. Then back into the museum, into its rough position. So with the chassis out of the way, now we can just finalise the parking of the other vehicles just for now. As I say, these vehicles are just into their temporary positions to keep them inside for the winter months, the Christmas holidays. They'll have to move out again while we do the next stage of the move around. So here we are, as fast as we can. Let's get them all in, parked up, before the light fades completely. And there we are, just about all inside now. The last one is RF226. So where the RF is manoeuvring is roughly where we're going to have a painted roadway that will come from one end of the shutters to the other. It'll look like a proper roadway, so the photographers will see the vehicles in context. Now moving into the kids' corner is the Optare MRL 242, but as you know, not only does it not have an engine, in fact it doesn't have anything connected at all. There's, even the steering doesn't work. It's only half a bus, as you can see, so we're now manoeuvring it into the place where it will live as part of the kids' corner. This is the kids' corner over in the newly refreshed museum. Okay, we're moving the SimL bus out of the way just so as we can do the final tuning with the MRL, and again we'll put the SimL bus roughly back to where it's going to be in the new layout. So as I said, the steering isn't actually connected on the MRL, so the only way to steer it is with absolute brute force. There's something that has to be moved into position very precisely. It's being steered by kicking the wheels. So there we are, the MRL back in place. Now time to put the SIM-L bus again into just about its final resting position. And when this is finally established, and this is, as I say, in the kids' corner, so they can go on the MRL and they can drive the SIM-L bus. The SIM-L bus will have a big screen in front of it, so that you will actually have a view of the road ahead. It won't be like the old SIM-L bus. I remember driving that at Chiswick many years ago. It's like driving in fog with this sort of ghostly apparitions of Matchbox route masters coming up in front of you. So we'll have a bit more realistic experience than that for the kids when they are on the SIM-L bus. So there's our December, and all locked up safely until the new year. Thank you very much indeed for joining us for episode 3. One more thing to tell you. We're planning to make automatic the front doors to the museum. That'll be a great benefit for the disabled and the infirm. We're asking you to raise some money for us. We've already raised, as you can see, £3,300. If you could, the location for the fundraising is on the website. So please, if you could send us a donation, that would be really appreciated. And so that was episode 3. That's what we did at Brooklands in December. Thanks very much indeed for joining us. I'm Leon Daniels, and we'll be back in January with the next instalment of the London Bus Museum Winter Refresh.